Hello, everyone, and welcome to the official launch of HR Employment Law Advisor. I'm Tara Taffera, our editorial director, and myself and our staff who are here today are excited to give you a preview of this product and this service that we've been working on for more than a year. The service was designed to make your job as an HR professional easier when it comes to understanding all of the challenges that are coming at you, and we all know there are a lot of them, and so we're here to help you with that. We even worked with HR professionals like you to ensure that the info that we're providing and that we developed will help you with your daily struggles. We think you're here because it's vital for you to stay on top of all the employment law issues coming at you, and the staff here who you'll meet in a minute are all here to help you do that. Make sure you stay until the end of this webinar, as one of you will receive a free membership, so you do not want to miss that opportunity. And also, as we go along, if you have questions for any of us, you just can type them into the Q&A box, and we should have plenty of time to get to those at the end. Just in case you're not familiar with us at Business Management Daily, we are no strangers to employment law. We bring you products like the HR Weekly, the HR Specialist, the HR Specialist Employment Law. We put on 2 to 3 webinars per week, which Anniken, who you'll meet in a second, does a lot of those related to employment law. We do monthly virtual workshops and master classes that she does. And our company also produces the LEAP conference, which you may be aware of. That's an annual employment law conference every March in Las Vegas. So that's a little bit about us. And let's get started by introducing you to our staff. So I'll mention Anniken, who I just mentioned. She is an attorney, gives a lot of our webinars and workshops. She's a well-known author and speaker on employment law issues. She serves as the senior legal editor of HR Employment Law Advisor, and she has authored several books, including Bulletproof Your Employee Handbook, which is one of the bonuses you all received for joining us today, and also the Employer's Practical Legal Guide, which basically is a huge book that tells you anything you need to know about employment law. And John Wilcox works hand in hand with Anniken. They're our super team, and he's the senior editor for HR Employment Law Advisor, and he's a journalist who has covered HR for more than 25 years, and he keeps his pulse, his finger on everything going on with employment law, which again is a lot. And in a little bit, he's going to tell us exactly how he does that and how that work he does will help you all with this service. And then we have Ian Jones, who is the senior marketing manager at Business Management Daily, overseeing our market strategy and content, and he's going to walk us through the site today. But first, I'm going to turn it over to John, who will moderate a discussion with Anniken about the top 3 challenges that you all are facing today. John?
Great to be with you all today. The top 3 employment law challenges that we're facing, there's certainly a lot going on, and the HR Employment Law Advisor could not be coming along at a more opportune time. We've got big things happening in the field of HR and employment law, and 3 topics that we want to hit on, the top 3 trends that you're going to have to be worried about over the next 6, 12, 18 months. Overtime rules. The first round kicked in on July 1st, raising the salary threshold to enable overtime eligibility for exempt workers. The second big trend is the scope of accommodations is changing rapidly. We're all used to ADA accommodations, disability accommodations, but that's expanded into some brand new areas within the last year and actually within the last 6 months or so. And the third big deal trend that's happening is a fairly wholesale reshaping of the regulatory landscape thanks to a series of Supreme Court decisions that have come down in the last, in the last 2 months. So without further ado, Anniken, can you help us understand what's going on in the realm of the new overtime rule?
I'd be certainly happy to do so. You probably already went through the first phase of the new overtime rules, which happened on July 1st, which raised the basic salary to $8.44 per week and 43,888 per year for most of your exempt employees. That was probably a fairly easy transition for you to make because it's been a few years now since the Trump rules kicked in. You raised your salary levels at that point, and then we had the pandemic and we had wage inflation. So probably everybody, you didn't have to bump them up much to meet the July 1st. But let me tell you, the January 1st, 2025 jump is going to hurt. And there are ways that you can deal with that. What is that jump? January 1st, it's going to be $11.28 per week, $58,656 per year. And what's more, it's going to readjust on a very regular basis so that you'll have to keep raising those salaries about every 2 years. What can you do? Well, you may be thinking, well, last time there was a lot of litigation and the rules were halted. Surprisingly, by July 1st, they weren't halted, even though there is quite a bit of pending litigation out there. But that doesn't mean it won't happen by January 1st when that big jump kicks in. And especially since our third trend we're going to talk about, the Supreme Court and the changes to the regulatory environment we're going to see, what we're seeing now is that some of these lawsuits that were started have gone in there, they've amended their complaints, and they have said, oh, we're challenging your very ability to set salary rates at all. That was a lawsuit that is just percolating through the system, and that may end up in an injunction. But that doesn't mean you can rely on lawyers' predictions of what's going to happen. I think the thing we can say about today's environment is that the predictability is that it's unpredictable. But anyway, there are things you can do now to prepare yourself for January 1st. And one of those things is you can be looking at all the employees you have that are currently classified as exempt and kind of do an audit. Create your list of who is exempt. And then, and here's a big takeaway from today, take that list and compare it to the actual tests for each exempt status. It may be that you have employees that you have misclassified, and not through any fault of your own. Their classification may have been perfectly fine in 2016, 2017, but we had a pandemic and jobs changed, and they may no longer be properly classified. So if you do it your own self-audit and you see they don't fit into any one of the basic exemptions anymore, then you have time before January 1st to convert them to hourly and to also come up with an hourly rate based on their current salary and how many hours of overtime you estimate that they were doing. And you can actually get pretty close to ending up, even if you convert them to hourly, paying the same amount you're paying now. But that's my tip for the day on that. Stay alert and do that audit and figure out whether everybody is properly classified.
So Annika, it sounds to me like what you're saying is that essentially HR departments need to create that spreadsheet or go back into the records and double check how much every single exempt employee is making, and then double checking it against their job descriptions to ensure that their exempt classification is actually accurate and appropriate for the job that they're doing right now.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Very good. Thank you. Accommodations. Lots and lots of change in the realm of accommodations. What are we looking at?
Well, it used to be you only had to worry about accommodating disabilities. The ADA is pretty old now. It's been around a while. And you have that down. You know that if somebody comes and says, I need a reasonable accommodation, you go through a process. You engage with them, the interactive process. You determine whether they actually are disabled as is understood under the law. And then you look at what kind of reasonable accommodations you can make. Pretty straightforward process. Because you've been doing it for a long time. But now we have two additions to your responsibilities when it comes to accommodations. One is as a result of a Supreme Court decision last year involving religious accommodations. And that was a case, the Groff case, that involved a gentleman who wanted every Sunday off because that was his Sabbath. And he worked for the Postal Service. And you may think, well, they don't do Sunday delivery, right? Well, Amazon stepped in and they wanted the post office to do their Prime deliveries. So they had a Sunday schedule, which they hadn't had before. Well, for about 40 weeks, he was able to switch with people. And then people said, we don't want to do this anymore. Why should he get every Sunday off? So he resigned when they told him they couldn't accommodate him, and then he sued. And his case made it all the way up to the Supreme Court. Excuse me. And there the court looked at the rule that had been in place for 40 years. And that rule said, if an employer can show just a de minimis, a little bit of evidence that it would be inconvenient to make the accommodation, then they didn't have to make it. Court flipped that around and they said, no, you as an employer have to show that it would substantially impact basically your bottom line or health and safety if you had to make that accommodation. They sent that case back to trial, and actually it's coming to trial very soon to see if he actually ends up winning the case in the long run. But the standard is new, and you really have to look at exactly what does it cost you, not just inconvenience to coworkers, not coworker resentment, not inconvenience to you, but what's the bottom line that it's going to impact you. And that may be a different standard for you if you're a very small employer than if you're, say, the Postal Service. But the problem is we don't yet know exactly how lower courts are going to interpret this new mandate. And we will see that pretty shortly as these cases make their way through the court. The third big accommodation push that we really have to be concerned about is the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. And this is going to require some pretty substantial changes in how you manage pregnant accommodations. The primary one being that the regulations and the statute itself basically says there's some common sense things about pregnancy that you as an employer should immediately accommodate, which means that you need to empower your direct supervisors to make on-the-spot decisions about that accommodation. Pregnant woman doesn't come into work on time because she claims she's having morning sickness. Somebody has to make that decision right away of whether that's a reasonable accommodation or not, and it happens to be on the list of things that the EEOC says is always a reasonable accommodation. So you've got to empower those supervisors, and you've got to educate them step by step on what kind of accommodations must, not should, not maybe, but must they make. And those decisions have to be made on the spot. Now, I have one takeaway on accommodations for you today. And this one actually involves religious accommodation because I found that I get a lot of questions about, well, what kind of an accommodation do I really have to make? And is this really a real religion, or are they just making this up? And how can I turn them down? Well, there's only so much that the case law lets you ask about somebody's religion, but it does allow you to, and this is key, in writing, get the employee to fill out a form in which they identify the religious accommodation they need. They explain how not getting the accommodation would, violate their belief. And then you get it in writing so that it can't be just somebody calling up HR and saying, my religion, I just converted, I have to have every Saturday and Sunday off. You have to get them committed to putting it in writing so that you can assess it. And I think just that act of getting it in writing is going to be very helpful, because that's going to take out a lot of those cases that, they kind of heard something on the internet about how you can get every Sunday off and that kind of thing. So that's
I
that
think
tip.
I think one of the things that we're seeing, and our mantra on all things employment law related is document, document, document. Well, getting the employee to put down on paper what they say they want is an important first step in that documentation process. And that's something that HR has got to follow through on throughout the accommodations process. Is that right?
Absolutely. And yes, the mantra, document, document, document. You may be tired of hearing it, but I'm telling you, it is what wins lawsuits.
I actually
And
wrote a
they
couple
should
of
be,
weeks ago. I
yeah,
actually wrote a couple of weeks ago. We've said it before, but we're going to say it again. Document, document, document.
and it should be dated, and it doesn't hurt to have it all time stamped too, because I just saw a case where the dispute was whether or not somebody filed a complaint before they were fired or not, and it all happened in the same day.
Okay, moving on to the regulatory environment. It's kind of crazy out there these days. We don't know what's going to happen, do we?
It's absolutely insane. Every morning I see a new spin on claims. So what happened was the Supreme Court said that the courts were going to start now deciding if a statute was kind of vague, going to decide, well, how do you interpret that? It used to be agencies got all this deference. It was called the Chevron defense. And basically, they could come up with any interpretation of language that was a little bit unclear, put their spin on it, and pass a regulation. And courts would defer to their expertise because, most of the time we assume that, say the EEOC is going to have more expertise in employment law than, some judge out there somewhere. But the case turned that upside down. It said we're no longer going to necessarily defer to what the agency says. We, the court system, we, the judges in the federal system, are going to be interpreting it ourselves. So then suddenly, once that decision went out in late June, a lot of lawsuits started getting amended, and lawyers were starting to make claims like, this regulation isn't valid anymore because it goes beyond the interpretation. And even in our overtime rules that we talked about earlier, one of the big challenges there, it's clear, DOL is going in there and defending itself saying, yeah, we have the right to set the salary range. That's pretty obvious. It's been happening since 1940. And they're getting backlash. And judges are beginning to say, well, we're going to try to interpret this ourselves. No decisions yet, no injunctions yet, but boy, I'm expecting it to come. So what should you do? Here's my takeaway. You've probably spent decades relying on the idea that if you follow an agency's regulation, if you follow an agency's guidance, you're going to be safe. I think you should continue to rely on that until you hear otherwise. I wouldn't go out there and say, oh, I saw this EEOC harassment guidance. I don't like it. I'm not going to follow it because, A, maybe that regulation isn't valid anymore. Not unless you want to sue or be sued. It's not a good idea. So for now, follow the regulations as they're written, but then stay up to date because it may change. And we're expecting, I don't know how many changes in the next 18 months, but it's going to be wild.
It sounds to me like, I wish we had a crystal ball and we could accurately predict exactly what's going to happen here. All we can help people get a grip on is what kind of contingencies they might anticipate coming down the road. One thing that I do know from talking to our friends in the legal world, there are a bunch of lawyers who are eager to represent employees in all manner of different cases. They're going to be lining up to file lawsuits. And if you've got enough employees, you can probably bet that one of them has talked to their cousin who's a lawyer or talked to their neighbor who's a lawyer. And they're wondering, how might we be able to cash in on this? The old proverb of may you live in interesting times. I think we're getting to that in the HR world. Annika, thank
John,
you so
that's a
much.
curse, you know.
Huh? Yeah, that's right.
John,
It's not
that's a curse, you know. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective on this, Annika. We couldn't be launching this service at a more important time. There's so much to keep up with for HR folks.
Yes, obviously, as you can tell, there's a lot that you and Anniken have to stay on top of. And we're actually already getting a lot of questions, but if you missed my announcement before, if you type your question into the question box, we'll get to as many as we can at the end, and the ones we don't get to, we'll actually answer and send those out to you after. So please keep your questions coming. So John, with how much that you have to stay on top of, give us an idea of what your day looks like. What does that look like, keeping on top of all this?
My standard catchphrase is, I read the government's websites so you don't have to. So every day I'm taking a spin through the Department of Labor, the EEOC, those are the two big ones. Keeping an eye about what's coming down the pike. But also lately, the National Labor Relations Board has been increasingly active. And that's, partly a legacy of the current political environment that we're in. Union issues are becoming bigger and bigger because unions themselves are enjoying quite a resurgence these days. And also, completely out of left field, the Federal Trade Commission, they proposed a ban on non-compete agreements that's actually set to take effect on September 4th. So yeah, I've had to add the Federal Trade Commission to my roster of government websites that I'm checking all the time. The other resource that we draw on a lot for deciding what we need to cover and how we need to address these issues is seeing what attorneys who represent the management side of HR are concerned about. We've got a large network of attorneys that help us plan our coverage. They provide expertise when we're looking for, what's the real meaning of this new set of regulations that's coming down the road and so forth. These are also many of the attorneys that present at our annual LEAP conference in every March in Las Vegas. And finally, collaborating with Anniken. She looks at essentially every employment law related case that comes down the line, both from the federal and the state levels, spotting patterns, spotting litigation trends, and then figuring out what to do in response to what are the lessons to be learned from the lawsuits that are making it into court. So between those three sources, I feel like we've got a pretty good finger on the pulse of what's going on in the world. But the other thing that we're very eager with the Employment Law Advisor is we want to hear from you guys too, with your questions that you send. And that's, that can be our early warning system. Hey, here's an issue that's bubbling up. So I'm really looking forward to getting feedback from our readers and from our users.
Yes, I absolutely. Oops.
Go ahead, Anniken. Sorry. Go ahead.
John is so right. I spend every morning reading all those case blurbs. I don't read the whole case, but I read all the case blurbs to see what's been filed, what's been decided, and where somebody has made a novel argument in a case. Because sometimes those novel arguments really show trends. And I like to think of myself as sometimes Cassandra, because sometimes people don't listen, but I think I'm pretty good at guessing what the trend's going to be.
Yeah, definitely. I already know that I keep on top of things too, but I already know that when I get something and I forward it to you all are already on top of it. So thanks to both of you for taking us through that process, which is really helpful. And now that you've heard so much about what we're looking for, Ian is going to walk you through the site and some of the content that we actually produce.
Awesome. Thank you, Tara. So like you said, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the HR Employment Law Advisor site and explore some of the different features of the different membership levels that we have here. So the first one is the Essentials tier. And this is really the core news and analysis that you need to stay up to date on what's going on, and most importantly, to know what actions you need to take to start preparing for it now. So here from the homepage, we've got a really nice mix of kind of carefully picked and also timely content. So we've got a featured story picked by our editors. We've got the latest news and the most recent things that we've posted. We've got like expert answers to your questions. So, like John and Anniken said, they're listening for, what they're hearing, what people are concerned about, and we're giving you answers to the questions that we know are on the top of your mind. Right here, we've got some upcoming webinars and trainings. You do get a discount for participating. I'm going to come back to that in a moment, though. But you can see kind of the top upcoming webinars coming up on our agenda. And then we've got an opportunity for a poll, just a nice little chance to have your opinion heard, but also give us some insight into what you're concerned about, what you're thinking about, and that all feeds back into our content creation process, because we really are focused on trying to create a feedback loop between us and our editors and our subscribers to make sure we're providing you with the information that you really need. So the real core part of the Essentials tier is this news section. So here we're posting upwards of 10 articles a week, all diving into different topics. You can see all the most recent things that we've posted here. You can also filter based on different topics you're looking for. So I'm going to pick like retaliation here. You'll see you have something that comes up and you're looking to see what's the recent news about that. And you can see all the articles tagged that way. And let's just go ahead and take a quick look at one. So here is an article by Anniken. And you can see, here we're diving into the background of a case, the details around it, and most importantly, the key takeaways that you need, even if you're not involved in the case necessarily, but the key takeaways that you need to look at to see, what should you start doing to prepare? How might the findings of that impact your business? And that's really what we're focused on, is trying to give you not just the news. We want to make sure you know what's going on, but we want to make sure you also know what to do with that information. And that's where our experts here really are providing a lot of value. So a couple of quick things to take a peek at on the article page. You can leave comments here. So that's an opportunity for you to engage with your fellow members, but also our editors. So Anniken, John, Tara are going to be in here looking at, responding to, and engaging with those comments. That's an opportunity to see what you're concerned about, but also to answer your questions, and opportunity to hear from you all. One last thing, if you love this article, you can favorite it. You'll see this in a lot of the different material on the site, and you can head right here into your favorite section and see all the things that you favorited. So, whether it's an article you want to share with someone, whether it's a report or something that you want to reference back, you can keep everything that you think you might want to come back to saved here in your favorite section. So it's a nice little feature to have available. Now, finally, we have the webinar section. I mentioned that a little while ago, but anyone at any level of membership on HR Employment Law Advisor is going to get 25% off every business management daily webinar that we do. So, we have a lot of different topics we cover. So you've got things from leadership and management things. We have HR and employment law. A lot of you are probably familiar with a lot of our webinars already, but if anyone isn't, like Tara said, we're doing a lot of them every week, and you'll see Anniken on a lot of those too. So as long as you sign in through the site here, you can scroll down. This will bring you to the regular page, but you'll have your discount at the end. So, looking at the Essentials features, what we really have are the key things that you need, the news, the analysis, what you need to stay informed. We're focused on really, we call it the Essentials tier, because they're the essential things that you need to stay ahead and not be caught up by surprise. I think that's the gist of what's in there. But if I missed anything, feel free to let me know.
No, that was very thorough, Ian. Thank you. And as you can all see that, there's a ton of content, already on the site. And I think Ian mentioned this, but I just want to reiterate it. Really, our goal here of what we've done in our past products and what we're absolutely doing in this product is that we're not just bringing you the news, which we are. We're bringing, when there's breaking news, and there's a lot of it, we definitely bring that to you. But really, all of our articles are our goal is to bring you actionable advice and not just telling you what's happening, but here are the things you can do. Here's how you document, like we just said before, all actionable advice. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then before we get to the next two tiers, I wanted to mention something that an attendee of a recent webinar asked Anniken. She asked her if we have guided training to share with supervisors. And honestly, and we do. And the next two tiers are, you're really going to see a lot of that. A lot of it is really targeted towards, you can know everything you want, but how do you pass that on to your managers and help them be experts as well. So it was nice to hear from that attendee that what she was looking for is what we are developed as we see the needs of you that you HR professionals need. So Ian, I will let you show the next two tiers.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, that's really what the advanced and premium tiers are all about. So starting with the advanced tier, our goal here is really to provide you tools and resources that are going to make your day-to-day job easier. So the first component of that are these deep dive reports we have. And this is really everything you need to know about a particular topic. So let's pick this one for now. Managing and accommodating pregnant employees. You heard a little bit about the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, and I'm sure how to comply with that is on a lot of your minds. So let's just take a look at this one report example. So what you're going to see here is an overview of the report itself, kind of just the key points that are involved in it. And then we have these quiz opportunities. So ideally, you could take the quiz before you read the report, see if there are any gaps in your knowledge. You can take it again after and see, have you filled those in? Is there anything else that you might need to look into? And then, you can download the report right here. So these are pretty thorough and extensive reports. This one's 22 pages. And it's diving into the background that you need, the current events around it, and really, how to all the things that you need to apply to your particular day. And these are great resources, either as a refresher, if maybe there's something that you need to get up to speed on, if there have been new policies and policy changes that you maybe want to figure out how they affect you, or if you have an FMLA case, you haven't dealt with one in a while, got a report for that. Or if maybe you have new job responsibilities and there's something that you're a little familiar with, but you don't know quite as in depth as you need to, we have those resources here for you. And most importantly, these reports and everything else you're going to see here, we are constantly adding to, we're constantly updating, we're constantly expanding. So this library of resources is really only going to continue to grow and provide you the resources that hopefully are going to just help make your day a little bit easier. So the next part, the manager's memos, these are really kind of building on what Tara was talking about, useful tools for you to share with managers, with teams, with your HR team. They're really high value resources, and they cover a wide variety of topics. So we have things like tips for documenting employee performance. A lot of you probably know, there are a lot of legal considerations around that, from defending promotion and raise decisions to protecting yourself in the case of a termination. In case someone brings a discrimination suit against you, you need to have all those things documented. We have a memo to share with your managers on that, how to do it, what the importance of it is. And we also have things like management stuff, so steps for coaching employees, ways to handle difficult conversations. It's really a wide variety of topics. And, let's just take a look at this ADA one here. So what managers need to know about the ADA, who's covered by it, what are the requirements, what are the guidance around what you can and can't ask about disabilities, reasonable accommodations, and a whole bunch of things here. So these really are great in-depth resources that you can take right as is to share to get someone up to speed on the highlights of such a wide variety of topics. You just kind of scroll through how many resources are in this section. It's a lot. So, and then the final part of the advanced tier, forms and checklists, this is really getting to useful tools, useful things for you to have available. So again, a really nice wide variety of things. We've got stuff like your most recent FMLA posters and certification forms, but we also have useful tools like hiring audits to make sure you're in compliance there, handbook checklists, and many, many more things in here. So just one that I personally like this 12 handbooks mistakes checklist. You can go through if you're updating your handbook. Maybe it's you're updating it annually, or maybe you've had some policy changes, or maybe there's like a government regulation that's changed and you need to go through and make some updates. It's a nice checklist you can go through and make sure that you're not missing anything, or that you're not hitting something that might land you in hot water later on accident. So a lot of really nice, useful tools here that are going to hopefully make your job easier, whether they're things that you use every day, maybe once a quarter, or even just annually when you have to update something. We have a lot of tools and resources here to use that we're constantly adding to.
Ian, if I may, I want to circle back to the manager memos.
Absolutely.
We are super aware that HR does not exist in a vacuum. And a matter of fact, you can't do this yourself. HR pros get their work done by connecting with supervisors and managers. They're your eyes and ears on the ground, on the shop floor, in the office. They're the ones that are going to alert you to where the problems are. And your job, in many cases, is to help them be better at their jobs. So all of these tools that focus on training managers are a big focus of what we're doing with the Employment Law Advisor.
Absolutely. And that really tees us up perfectly for the premium section. So what we have here are two really important features. And like John said, this tier is really focused on resources for leaders. So here are the tools that you need as a leader to keep departments and teams up to date. So the manager's training modules are the kind of the essential component of this. And these are trainings for managers, for leaders to share with their teams, whether it's you providing it to your team of managers, and then maybe they're providing then this training to their employees. Let's continue with this, looking at the ADA stuff. So the manager's guide to handling ADA requests. We have a couple of really important elements here. The first part I'm going to pull up for you is these downloadable PowerPoints. So we have everything really you need here to go ahead and launch this training and provide it exactly as is. There's nothing you have to do to get this going. And we also have your speaker notes. So you can see these are much more in-depth than the PowerPoint slide. We didn't give you a wall of text to just read a PowerPoint off of. You have a nice pairing of the PowerPoint, and then a deeper dive into the information here that you can really take and use as is. But another great feature is that these are all customizable. So if there are any particularities about your business, your industry that you want to include, you can take the foundation here and you can go ahead and you can add to it. You can update some things. You can just add your branding if that's what you want to do. So there are a lot of great tools and materials, and we're going to we continue to add to these, continue to update them as things change. But they should really be able to help you keep your team, your management, your leaders up to speed on some of these really important topics, how to handle them, and how to make sure that they're staying in compliance with the law. Because oops, I didn't know that isn't a great legal defense. So it's important that really everyone knows what they need to do and need to stay away from. And one other quick feature I want to show you before we get to the last part of the premium tier. This is not a premium feature. Everyone gets to search, but now that you've seen a little bit of all the different types of material on the site, I just want to point out, most things are filterable, but if there's a particular thing you're looking for, you can go ahead and here and search for it, and it's going to search the site for all the material on that topic. So I'll search pregnancy. Maybe you have a pregnant employee and you want to make sure that you know the latest that you need to accommodate there. We have the report that we looked at. We have a training module on accommodating pregnancy. You've got all the most recent news articles, and it'll look through and tell you, what memos mention that. So you can search. If you're having trouble finding something on a particular topic, the search feature is always available for you. And then you can go and favorite the content that you find so you can, look back and access it easily later. So the final thing I wanted to take a look at and show you is the Ask the Attorney feature. This is kind of your direct line to Anakin, John, and Tara. You can submit your questions if you don't know how a particular change is impacting your business. Maybe you think you have a good idea, but want to get some, maybe run it by someone else. This tool is available. It's going to go right to their inbox, and they'll be able to get back with you. It's kind of like, expanding out your team and having a team of people to support you without the payroll concerns of expanding out your team by that many people with that much expertise. So it's really a great tool. And that's what our premium tier is really all about. It's giving you the expert support that you need so that you can go and lead and support your teams across your organization of whatever size that it is.
And like I said earlier, I love getting questions. It's probably it's because I'm an educator. I've spent many years teaching college students too. So I love getting questions, and I love giving you answers. And what I found is that a lot of the time, it's something very simple, like, where is this dang form at the Department of Homeland Security for my I-9s? Because some of the stuff is really hard to find. But I really spent a lot of time helping people, get to that right information and the up-to-date information.
Absolutely. So those are really the key features. There's a lot of depth to each of them, a lot of material available. I was only given so much time to talk about it, so I take the highlight version. But we're looking forward to having the opportunity to really dig in and see what works for you, and let us know what's working for you, and maybe what would you like to see. So we're always looking to expand what we have to offer. One thing I want to hit on before kind of everyone for run out of time here is the discounts available to you. So as for attending the event, you have the opportunity to get up to 25% off on membership. If you visit this link, we have, it's also in the materials that you received via email. We will also be sending you follow-up emails, so you don't have to worry about writing this down now. But it is here if you would like to. You can take some time to think about it, look over the materials we gave you and figure out, what membership level is right for you. There will be an expiration on, how long this offer is available. So think about it, not too long. But take your time and really look over and think about it. Now we also have our contact information here. So if you have any questions, we're going to get to questions in a minute. But if you have any other questions that come up later about what we talked about, or maybe the HR Employment Law Advisor Service, we love hearing from you. So please feel free to shoot us a note, and we would be happy to take care of whatever questions you might have.
All right, thanks, Ian. And yeah, I'll just reiterate that email address there, that actually goes to all three of us, John, Anakin, and I. And we're actually really good about responding very quickly. So, if we don't get to your question now, you can email us later. We will send them out, all the answers later. But yeah, Ian, it looks like, is it time to give away our free membership?
It is. I will say Tara is uncannily quickly about responding to it makes me feel bad that it takes me like a little bit, a half hour to get back with you. But so for participating, you all have been entered in an opportunity to win a free year of membership. So I've loaded up all of your names into here. They don't all appear on the wheel, but there were way too many as the wheel started looking kind of weird. But they are all in here, and everyone has an equal chance to win. And I'm going to apologize in advance if I mix anyone's name up. So let's go ahead and see who wins our free membership. All right, Heather Padinsky. I think I can get that one. Awesome. So we will follow up with you. We will send you a follow-up email on how to go ahead and claim your membership. We hope that's going to be a really great tool and asset for you. And congratulations. With that in mind, I think that's all that I had to go over. So Tara, I'm going to shoot it back to you for any follow-up questions you might have from the audience.
Yes, and congratulations, Heather. We know you're really going to enjoy that membership, and let us know any feedback you have. And that goes for, any of you who purchase. We'd love to hear feedback, how we can improve. So we did get a lot of questions. Like I said, we won't get to all of them, but I am going to go through a few. The first one, Ian, is for you. I'll group a few together. I think you kind of touched on this because someone asked this before you really started going through the site, but someone asked if it is newsletter format only or is it an interactive dashboard? So I think that you could see that you do have that personal dashboard that you can go favorite articles, go there every day, several times a day. But Ian, do you want to mention that the emails will go out to?
Yeah. So there are kind of a couple ways that information is going to get to you. You have this homepage where the editors are choosing some of the content, and this is all the most recent material that's going to come here. So you will have, I guess it's sort of like a newsletter format here, where you'll have a feed of current content. And then you always have your favorite section, so you can favorite whatever material you want to come back to. So in that sense, this part is a little bit customizable, and yet, if you have things that you want to be able to reference, you can save them here. And then we do have, so it'll be every Tuesday, we also send an update email that comes from Tara typically, and that has a little bit of a highlight of what new materials on the site, what are we keeping an eye out for that we're seeing in the news? What are maybe a handful of articles or resources that you might want to read? So if we see some news and Tara thinks perfect, we ran an article 2 weeks ago that happens to actually really touch on that, we'll pull that up to your attention so that we're kind of helping to steer you in a direction of things that we think are going to be valuable to you. So not that really answers the question. It's a little bit of a mix of, you have some room to personalize things, and then a couple different ways that you can get information in hopes that we're bringing to your attention the most valuable information that we can.
Yeah, definitely. We know you're all busy, so if you forget to go to that dashboard or you can't do it, we'll send you an email, with the highlights to remind you.
Just one.
And then also
won't clog up your inbox.
Oh, just one a week, right? Is that what you said?
Yep, at least for that. Yep, won't clog it up.
Yeah, at least for that. We won't bombard you. Also, someone asked if these are available on mobile, and I think that they are asking, the whole site is optimized for mobile. So yes, you can log in on your phone. So I don't know if you need to add anything to that, Ian.
Yeah, I just reiterate that correct. The site has been optimized for mobile. There isn't an app for it, but what you can always do when you visit the page, the homepage for that, you can go up into your phone settings and you can save the homepage and add it as an icon to your screen. And that way, at that point, it basically functions like an app. You can hit that and it'll always bring you to your homepage. But the whole site will work just fine, just as well on mobile.
Awesome, great tip there, Ian. Also, somebody asked, how often can we ask the attorney a question, and is there a limit? There's no limit. We haven't had that problem, so nope. I'm just going to say there is no limits.
Let you know when there is one.
Yeah, we'll let you know. If you abuse it, we'll let you know. But I don't foresee that happening. Let's see. Somebody asked, maybe Anakin, maybe this is the best for you. Someone asked from the beginning, do you have a template employers can use for religious accommodation requests?
Actually, I do know of one, and I'm not sure if it's on there yet, but I'll make sure that it gets on there.
Awesome.
I will make the
because I think Ian showed before our forms and checklist section that involves templates, things like that. That would be perfect. So we will get that up there. Let's see. All right, let me see. Somebody asked if they change jobs, can they use a personal email address? Absolutely. We wouldn't want you to lose the opportunity.
And you're able to update your email address and contact info in the system. So if you like already subscribed and change position, something, you can update that.
Yes. And somebody just asked the cost of this service, and I'm going to refer to your handout that we sent before that because it breaks it down for the tiers. You actually get discounts depending on the tier. And if you don't have that handout handy, we're actually going to, you're going to get an email, and that'll be in there again as well. But again, you have any questions about that, email us and we will help. FMLA question. I know Anakin loves these. So I have to say I have to put in a plug. So I mentioned master classes that we do. Anakin does an FMLA master class twice a year, I believe. We do it twice a year, or do we do 3 times? I think twice a year. And so that's a 4-hour master class that she gives. And I know she always gets very specific FMLA questions, so we'll give you one. The hours worked requirement for being eligible for FMLA. If you have an employee that quit and came back a few months later, does the hours worked start with their newest hire date, or can it go back to their previous start date?
So the rule for the FMLA is if you have a break in service for the 1-year requirement for eligibility at all, you have to add the prior service in. If you're talking about somebody who had maybe 500 hours and then quit and then came back, do you need to add that? If it was in the last year, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Is there Anakin, is there a different template for ADA versus FMLA requests, specifically ADA extensions?
I'm not sure we have an ADA extension one, but it wouldn't be all that different from the regular ADA one. But again, I'll double check on that because make sure that we do have it in there.
And honestly, somebody just asked if we have pregnant accommodation forms. And so again, this is validation that we knew that forms and checklist was going to be so important to you. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember if there's a pregnant accommodations form on the site currently, but I can promise you we can certainly, get that on there.
That's, I think we're getting feedback from members is going to be really valuable because those questions, if we don't have something up there, you can hear it's can be pretty easy for us to whip something up and Anakin to create something. So, getting that feedback on what you're concerned about, what your needs are, we can fairly quickly and fairly responsively update the offerings on the site and pull things together to provide. So, you really mean it. That there's a loop of feedback that we want to hear from you and on what you need and what we can provide to give you more value. So.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing those on what you all want. That's perfect and what we're looking for. I think, okay, this is going to be the last one. But again, we'll send out, even the ones we answered, we'll send them all out. All right, Anakin, overtime. Do you have to pay non-exempt employees hourly? I pay them a salary. In the very rare instance where we have to pay overtime, we convert the salary into an hourly wage and compute the overtime that way.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, there you go. Yep. You're doing it right, whoever asked that question. Isn't that awesome?
It's rare that you get a simple an answer. So
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for attending today. We hope you found this information helpful. As you can tell, we're here for you. If you have questions, let us know. And that will end our webinar. And we hope you have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.